I used to think that if I just pedal my e-bike fast enough, I could break through the wall between our worlds. I packed up my heart and served it to her with every DoorDash order, tucking in her favorite boba tea and a dorky little note, convinced that my clumsy, red-hot affection could eventually melt her cool exterior. I even bought her a cheap space heater for her apartment, a silly little sun I hoped could compete with the dazzling galaxy she already lived in. It took me a while to learn that some distances can't be closed, no matter how hard you gun the engine. It wasn't until I'd said the cruelest things I didn't mean, pushed her away with my own hands, and then, after she was gone, started posting cryptic Instagram stories like some kind of heartbroken teenager. Wind's really picking up today that I finally got it. My name is Leo Garcia. I'm 27, and I deliver food for a living. The midday sun was brutal. I just dropped off an order, and sweat was stinging my eyes. I wiped my face on my sleeve, about to grab an easy, on-the-way order so I could find some shade, when a name flashed on my screen that vaporized all my exhaustion. Clara. The address was the Sterling Tower, apartment 1701. Dozens of other orders were pinging on the app, a few right in my immediate vicinity, but I only had eyes for hers. The Sterling was one of the swankiest high-rises on the Gold Coast, a good 7 or 8 traffic lights away, clear across 2 neighborhoods. It was a completely nonsensical detour. Any other driver would have called me an idiot for skipping a handful of easy fares for this one. But they didn't know it was for Clara. Clara was what was she exactly? My girlfriend? She never said yes, but she never said no either. Let's just say she was the girl I was trying to win over. I twisted the throttle, and my scooter shot forward. As I passed her favorite spot, the Daily Steep, I pulled over without a second thought. Hey, can I get 1 grapefruit green tea, light ice, quarter sweet? I paid, hung the drink carefully on my handlebars, then pulled a pen from my pocket. I tore a corner off a napkin and scribbled, "Stay hydrated. The main course is on its way. Your personal night." I chuckled at my own cheesiness, but Clara was a sucker for this stuff. Pulling up to the Sterling, even the doorman recognized me. He gave me a small smile. "Another delivery for your girlfriend, Leo?" I grinned back, pulling off my helmet and trying to fluff up my flattened hair. You know it. Her Majesty decreed a royal feast. And who am I to keep the Queen waiting? To be honest, every time I came here, I felt a knot in my stomach. The place was too clean, too quiet. It was a world away from the gritty city streets I navigated all day. I always felt like the dirt on the soles of my shoes would stain the immaculate marble floors. Ding dong. The door opened, and there was Clara. She was wearing a white silk robe, her long hair draped over her shoulders. No makeup, but she was still so beautiful it was hard to look away. She had that power. Even her sleepy, just woke up look was like something out of a painting. "That was fast," she said, her voice a little husky. "But of course, for you, Your Highness, I activate the rocket boosters." I handed her the food, then the boba tea with the napkin tucked under the lid. My grin was a mile wide. "Saw you post about wanting this yesterday. It was on my way." "On your way?" She raised an eyebrow. "My place, your location, and that tea shop form a perfect triangle. There's no on the way about it." I just scratched my head and gave her a goofy smile. "I take the scenic route." She didn't press it, just glanced down at the note. A tiny, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. "Thanks. How much do I owe you?" "I can Venmo you." "Hey, don't worry about it. It's just a drink." "My treat," I said, waving my hand dismissively. I'd much rather she bantered with me than started calculating debts. She just said, "Oh," and didn't insist. She started to close the door. Just as it was about to click shut, my eyes caught her other hand. Her phone screen was still lit. It was open to iMessage. The profile picture was a guy against the backdrop of a sports car that screamed money. The last message in the chat read, 7 o'clock. "Aurelia, I'll pick you up." Aurelia, the restaurant where a single plate costs more than my weekly earnings. The kind of place I'd have to starve for a month to afford to take her to. The door clicked shut, sealing me outside with my thoughts. It's fine, I told myself. They're just friends. Of course they are. A girl as beautiful as Clara had guys lining up to ask her out. I was a delivery driver. I couldn't compete with a guy in a sports car. But I had my own thing. I would always claim her orders. I would remember everything she liked. I would ride for miles across town just to make her smile. What I could give her wasn't expensive, but it was 100% of everything I had. Back in the elevator, catching a glimpse of my own reflection, sweaty, wearing a worn-out uniform, I felt a pang of shame for the first time. One day I thought, one day I'll make enough money to take her to Aurelia myself, instead of just dropping off a $20 takeout box at her door. I got back on my scooter and merged back into the river of traffic. After that day, I went into overdrive. I was out the door by 6 a.m. and didn't stop until 1 or 2 in the morning. Besides charging my scooter and grabbing a bite, I never stopped moving. Other drivers said I was insane, that I was going to kill myself for a few extra bucks in surge pricing. I just smiled and didn't explain. I started stashing the extra cash I made each day into an old tin cookie box. Every night, I'd count it, watching the pile of crumpled bills grow thicker. With every dollar, I felt like I was an inch closer to Aurelia, but I knew a fancy dinner wasn't enough. I had to get her a real gift, something she could wear, something that would make her think of me. One day, on a delivery run, I found myself parked across from a big department store downtown. I stared through the massive glass windows at the rows of jewelry glittering under the lights. My delivery uniform screamed that I didn't belong, but I took a deep breath and pushed the door open anyway. The saleswoman's eyes lingered on me for half a second, a familiar look of polite dismissal. I ignored her and walked straight to a display case, my gaze locking onto a necklace. It was a delicate silver chain with a small, stylized sun pendant. Simple, but it shone, just like her. "Hello, sir. Can I help you with anything?" the saleswoman asked, her voice pure professionalism. "This one. How much is it?" I pointed. "That's from our new designer collection. It's called the Dawn. Sterling silver with an 18-karat gold plating. It's priced at $288. $288. That would clean out my cookie tin." I did the math in my head. How many deliveries, how many red lights run, how many impatient customers I'd have to deal with to earn that. "Can I see it?" She placed it on a black velvet tray. The little sun gleamed at me, and I could vividly picture it on Clara's neck. "It will be perfect. I'll take it. Can you wrap it up?" I pulled out my phone and, almost closing my eyes, scanned the payment code. The beep of the transaction made my heart clench. The cookie tin was empty, but in my hand, I held a small, elegant box. It was worth it. I carried the gift in my jacket pocket for days, feeling a new surge of energy with every delivery. I was just waiting for the right moment. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. That night, I snagged her order again. It was for an acai bowl with a note. "Please hurry, I'm in a rush." I figured she was on her way out, so I raced over. When I got to the Sterling, I didn't go straight up. I sent her a text instead. "Hey, I'm here. Can you come down and grab it? My scooter's about to die, and I'm worried I'll get stuck in the garage." It was a lame excuse, but I wanted to see her. I wanted her to come down for me. A few minutes later, she appeared. She was dressed up, wearing a stunning black dress that hugged her curves. Her makeup was perfect, her red lipstick bold. She was definitely heading somewhere important. "Here you go," I said, handing her the bowl. "Thanks." She took it and started to turn away. "Hey, wait," I called out, my voice tight. She turned back, a hint of impatience in her eyes. "Yeah." I pulled the small box from my pocket, my hands so clammy I could barely speak. I was out the other day and saw this. It made me think of you. It's for you." I held the box out to her, feeling like a defendant awaiting a verdict. Clara looked stunned for a moment, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. She took the box and opened it. The little sun pendant seemed to shine even brighter against her pale palm than it had in the store. "It's beautiful," she said, her tone flat. I couldn't tell if she meant it or was just being polite. She didn't make a move to put it on. She just closed the box and slipped it into her small purse. "Thanks, Leo. How much was it? I'll Venmo you." There was again. "It was a gift," I said a little too loudly. "It's just a little something. Can't you just accept it without trying to pay me back for everything?" "Okay," she said, nodding. She seemed to be in a hurry. "I'll keep it. Thanks. I have to go. My friend is waiting." Friend. There was that word again. My chest tightened, but I forced a smile. "Sure. Have fun." She turned and walked toward the main entrance. At that exact moment, a black Porsche Panamera glided silently to a stop beside her. The window rolled down, revealing a handsome, coolly detached face, the same guy from the iMessage photo. He smiled at Clara, a smile dripping with a kind of effortless superiority. Then his eyes fell on me. He held my gaze for a single second, looking at me like I was a fire hydrant. "Who's this?" he asked Clara. I stood up a little straighter, the words, "I'm her boyfriend," lodged in my throat, refusing to come out. Then I heard Clara's voice, light and dismissive. "The delivery guy. I know him. The delivery guy. I know him." 6 words. 6 blades of ice, stabbing through all my foolish hope. All this time I'd been killing myself, trying to close the gap between us, and in her world, I was still just the delivery guy. Clara got into the car without a single glance back. The Porsche pulled away smoothly, disappearing into the night. It left me standing there, alone, in my bright blue uniform, feeling like the world's biggest fool. After that night, it felt like someone had let all the air out of me. I stopped trying to snag Clara's orders. It wasn't that I didn't want to, I was afraid to. I was afraid to see her again, afraid to hear her casually dismiss me as just some delivery guy she knew. I started avoiding her neighborhood altogether, my delivery routes now conspicuously skirting the Gold Coast. The city suddenly felt vast and empty. Before, knowing she was somewhere in it gave me a destination. Now, that destination was a forbidden zone. I still compulsively checked her Instagram. It was my only window in her life. And what a life it was. Candlelit dinners at fancy restaurants, invitations to private art gallery openings, group selfies on a yacht. Every photo was polished, perfect like a page out of a magazine. I'd zoom in on the group shots, looking for the guy with the Porsche. He was always there, sometimes standing next to her, sometimes just a handsome profile in the background, but the intimacy between them was palpable even through the screen. I never saw her wearing the necklace I gave her. Not once. The little son was probably sitting in a drawer somewhere, collecting dust. Just like me. One night, after my last delivery, I dragged my exhausted body back to my shoebox apartment. The place was a mess. Empty ramen cups and soda cans piled in the corner. I collapsed onto my bed, too tired to even shower. My phone buzzed. A new post from Clara. I sat bolt upright, my body reacting before my brain. I tapped it open. It was a picture of her, a selfie at the beach. The sky was dark, and the wind was whipping her long hair across her face. The caption was just one sentence. The wind is so strong tonight. Hope you're not cold. My heart seized. It felt like she was talking to me. My mind went blank. All my resolutions, all my bruised pride, it all vanished. That single sentence was a lifeline, making me feel like maybe I wasn't so insignificant after all. Maybe she did feel something for me. Maybe she just wasn't the type to show her private feelings on social media. Yes, that had to be it. I shot out of bed, not even bothering to change out of my sweaty clothes, and grabbed my helmet and keys. My e-bike was parked downstairs, its battery nearly dead. It wouldn't make it to the lakefront. I didn't care. I scanned the QR code on a public rental scooter on the sidewalk and took off. Hope you're not cold. The phrase played on a loop in my head like a mantra. I didn't even know which beach she was at. Chicago has miles of lakefront. I just went on instinct, heading for the stretch of beach closest to the Sterling. It was a long ride, and it took me almost an hour. The damp, cold wind coming off Lake Michigan cut right through my thin jacket, making my teeth chatter. When I got there, I ditched the scooter and started running along the shoreline, scanning the darkness. The beach was empty except for a few lone fishermen. I shouted her name, my voice swallowed by the crashing waves. Clara, Clara. No answer. I pulled out my phone, about to call her when I saw it. Her Instagram had updated. A new photo, posted 5 minutes ago. This one wasn't a selfie. In the picture, the black Porsche was parked on a road, overlooking the water, its headlights cutting two bright beams through the darkness. Clara was standing next to it, a man's black suit jacket draped over her shoulders. The man himself was next to her, gently tucking a strand of her wind-blown hair behind her ear. The caption read, "The wind died down. Thanks for the jacket." And below it, a location tag, Promontory Point. Promontory Point, on the complete opposite side of the city. I'd gone the wrong way. I just stood there, a fool on an empty beach, clutching my cold phone. The screen's glow lit up my face, illuminating the utter, pathetic joke I had become. That post, "Hope you're not cold," it was never for me. She wasn't asking me if I was cold. She was sending a signal to him. I'm cold. Come get me. And he had, in his Porsche, with a warm jacket. And me? I had ridden a dying rental scooter for miles in a thin uniform, braving the cold wind, only to end up in the wrong place, a punchline in a story that wasn't even about me. The waves crashed onto the shore, a dull, heavy thud that matched the beating of my own heart. I finally understood. Some people's storms aren't meant for you. If you run into them, all you'll do is get swept away. The ride back felt twice as long. The wind was still strong, and this time, it felt colder than ever. The night at Promontory Point hollowed me out. I stopped dreaming about Aurelia, stopped stashing cash in the cookie tin. I shoved the tin under my bed, along with all my other pathetic, unrealistic fantasies. I started working like a machine, a real delivery driver. I only cared about the distance, the payout, the route efficiency. When an order from a Sterling popped up, I could swipe it away without a second thought, as if the address meant nothing more to me than any other concrete block in the city. I threw myself into work, running myself ragged until I could collapse into bed and fall instantly asleep. I thought if I was tired enough, I wouldn't have the energy to think about her. But missing someone is like mold in the corner of a room. The more you ignore it, the more it spreads. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, my hand instinctively reaching for my phone, my thumb opening her profile to stare at the glossy, perfect life I was never a part of. We had no contact. She never reached out, and I never bothered her. Until one day, about 2 weeks later, my phone rang. It was Clara. My heart the traitor, started pounding against my ribs. I took a deep breath, trying to sound calm. Hello, Leo, it's me. Her voice was hoarse and tired. Are you busy right now? Can you do me a favor? What is it? I asked, my fingers tightening on my scooter's handlebars. I have a fever. There's no medicine in the apartment, and I feel awful. I can't even make it downstairs. Could you bring me some fever reducer and maybe some soup? Her voice was soft, pleading. Every instinct screamed to say yes, but what came out of my mouth was hard and cold. I'm on a shift. I'm busy. There was a silence on the other end. Then her voice came back, even quieter. Please? I'm begging you. I don't have anyone else to call. The words were a needle in my heart. So, only when the guy in the Porsche wasn't around, when everyone else in her glittering world was unavailable, only then did she remember me. The delivery guy. The last resort. Address, I said flatly. I hung up and turned my scooter around, heading for the nearest pharmacy and a soup place. My gut was a mess of conflicting emotions. Half pathetic pity, half clear-eyed bitterness. I bought Tylenol, Dayquil, and a container of chicken noodle soup from the deli she liked. At the checkout, I hesitated, then decided against grabbing a napkin to write a stupid note on. The ride to the Sterling felt like a trip into a past life. I rang the bell, and the person who answered the door was a shock. It was Clara, but not the Clara I knew. Her face was pale, her lips chapped. She was buried in a huge, shapeless sweatsuit, her hair plastered to her forehead. She looked small and completely stripped of her usual radiance. Seeing me, she managed a weak smile, her eyes filled with a raw vulnerability. You came. I just grunted, handing her the bag. I couldn't find any words. Seeing her sick like this, all the coldness I had prepared just dissolved. All I wanted was for her to feel better. Come in for a minute, she said, stepping aside. I shook my head. Can't. My scooter's parked out front. She didn't push it. She took the bag and said quietly, Thank you, Leo. How much for the medicine and soup? Don't worry about it. I cut her off. Just consider it my last delivery to you. I said it and turned to leave before my resolve could crumble. Leo, she called out behind me. I stopped but didn't turn around. I'm sorry, she said, her voice thick and nasal. She sounded like she was about to cry. Before, I was awful. I took a deep breath, forcing my voice to sound indifferent. It's nothing. It's all in the past. You're just a customer. I never really gave it a second thought. I was lying. How could I not have given it a second thought? The necklace, she said. I did not wear it on purpose. It felt too precious. I was afraid I'd lose it. I laughed a bitter, silent laugh. A necklace that cost a couple $100 was precious to her. The bracelet she wore on her wrist probably cost more than I made in a month. It was an excuse a child would see through. It's just a cheap little thing. If you lose it, you lose it, I said, echoing the casual dismissal I imagined she felt. You should get back inside, out of the draft. Make sure you take the medicine. Without another word, I walked to the elevator. As the doors slid shut, I saw her reflection in the polished steel. She was still standing in the doorway, watching me go. Back on my scooter, I started the engine and drove away from the place I had once longed to be a part of, and I didn't look back. My last delivery. The words had been so final, but my heart ached like something had been ripped out of it. This is it, Leo, I told myself. It's over. You're not her knight. You're just a delivery guy. Her castle already has a prince. It doesn't need some fool in a dented helmet. I rode aimlessly through the city, past the intersection where we first met, past her favorite tea shop, past the department store with the sun necklace. Every landmark was a reminder of how bright my hopes had been, and how pathetic I felt now. I finally understood. There are some worlds you can't force your way into. It's not about how hard you try. The gap between us wasn't just distance. It was a different dimension. My passion, my heart. To her, it was probably no different from that bowl of chicken noodle soup. Something she needed when she was hungry, and something she forgot about the moment she was full. I thought that delivery would be the end of it, a period I'd placed on my own one-man show, a final, vaguely dignified exit. I forced myself to move on. I blocked her on my phone, deleted our text history, and scrubbed my life of any trace of her. Life seemed to return to normal. I was still Leo, the delivery driver, racing against time and traffic. But there was a hole in my chest that a cold wind blew through in the dead of night. About a month later, a strange number called me late at night. I just finished my shift, so tired I could barely keep my eyes open. I answered impatiently. Yeah? Who is this? Some of us are trying to sleep. Leo, it's me. The voice on the other end was slurred, thick with alcohol, but I knew it instantly. It was Clara. My anger evaporated, replaced by a jolt of panic. Clara? What's wrong? Are you drunk? I'm at Moore Lounge. Can you come get me? she said, her words choppy. He left. He left me. Just because I wouldn't help him sign some contract. He just left me here alone. Noir Lounge was a well-known upscale bar. Indy? I could guess who that was. My first instinct was to say no. Why should I? Why is it that when you get dumped, I'm the one you call? But my body was already moving before my brain could object. I hung up, grabbed my keys, and ran out the door, cursing myself for being such a damn fool the whole way there. The bar was dark and smoky. I finally found her in a corner booth, slumped over a table littered with empty glasses. Her hair was a mess, her makeup streaked with tears. When she saw me, she looked up, her eyes red, and managed a smile that was more painful than a sob. You came. I knew you'd come. I didn't say anything, just walked over to help her up. She grabbed my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. Leo, do you think I deserve this? Do you think I'm just some gold-digging, materialistic bitch? She asked, staring at me, her words hitting me in a wave of expensive perfume and booze. I stayed silent. Wasn't that exactly what I thought? Seeing my silence, her smile turned bitter. Yeah, I am. I fought like hell to climb out of the gutter to have a better life. Is that so wrong? My dad's a gambling addict. My mom's sick. My family is a black hole of debt. I never want to worry about where my next meal is coming from again. What's so wrong with that? She poured it all out, her voice getting louder. I got with him for his money. I thought if I was pretty enough, obedient enough, I could lock him down. I thought he was my ticket out, a way to finally escape my past. I just listened, and slowly, my resentment began to dissolve, replaced by a deep, aching sympathy. I'd never imagined this was the story behind her perfect, polished life. Did you ever love him? I asked, the word surprising me as much as her. She froze, then shook her head, fat tears rolling down her cheeks. No, I loved what he could give me. Every single day was a performance. I was playing the part of the gentle, ethereal goddess who didn't have a care in the world. I'm so tired, Leo. I'm just so tired. She looked up, her eyes glassy, and squeezed my hand tighter. You know, you were the only person I didn't have to pretend with. When you'd bring me food, write those silly notes, bring me my favorite tea. Those were the only times I was actually happy. Her words hit me like a physical blow. The necklace. She fumbled in her purse and pulled out the little box I'd given her. It was a little worn from being carried around, but still intact. She opened it. The little sun lay nestled inside. I carry it with me every day, she sobbed. In my purse. I was afraid to wear it. I was scared he'd see it, ask about it. I was afraid he'd think it was cheap, but I was even more afraid he'd lose it. You gave it to me. You worked so hard to buy it for me. How could I ever let it get lost? She clutched the necklace in her hand, like it was the most precious thing in the world. The day I was sick, I called you on purpose. I wanted to see if you'd really given up on me. When you said it was your last delivery, my heart broke. My throat was tight. I couldn't speak. All this time, I thought I was a joke, a lovesick fool. But from her side, it was a completely different story. She'd received every bit of my clumsy, heartfelt affection. She was just trapped, too afraid to respond. Leo, she said, looking up at me, her tear-filled eyes pleading. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I don't want the fancy cars or the luxury condos anymore. I don't want any of it. Do you? Do you still want me? The pounding music of the bar seemed to fade into nothing. I looked at her tear-streaked face, at the little sun necklace clutched in her hand, and the last wall around my heart crumbled. I reached out and wiped the tears from her cheek, my voice raspy. Seeing you happy is all the rest I need. Let's go home. I'm taking you home. I helped her up, and she leaned her whole weight against me, like a tired little bird that had finally found its harbor. We walked out of the bar and into the cool, clean night air. I helped her onto the back of my scooter, and she wrapped her arms tightly around my waist from behind. I could feel her tears, hot and wet, soaking through the back of my shirt. After I brought Clara back from Noir Lounge, our relationship shifted into something new and strange. She moved out of the Sterling. She didn't tell me. She just showed up in my rundown apartment building one evening after my shift, 2 enormous suitcases in tow. My landlord kicked me out, she said, standing in the dim hallway light. She looked a little lost, but her eyes were resolute. That guy, he took the apartment back. I looked at her, then at the expensive-looking luggage, and had no idea what to say. Can I crash here for a few days? She asked quietly, like a kid who'd done something wrong. I'll find a job and a place of my own, I promise. I'll be out of your hair soon. What could I say? My apartment was a tiny, messy disaster zone. She looked at the piles of ramen cups and dirty laundry in the corner, and, instead of looking disgusted, she laughed. Wow, Leo, this place has a lot of character. That night, I slept on a mat on the floor. I gave her the only bed. Lying there, just a few feet apart, I could hear the soft rhythm of her breathing. I felt a strange mix of peace and panic. And so our living together began. Clara was like a different person. She packed away her designer bags and expensive clothes, replacing them with t-shirts and jeans she bought online for 20 bucks. She stopped talking about fancy restaurants and art galleries and started trying to figure out the single hot plate that served as my kitchen. She'd clearly never cooked a day in her life. The first day, she nearly set the place on fire trying to make oatmeal. The second, she put so much salt in the stir-fry it was inedible. I watched her, flustered and smudged with soot, and couldn't help but laugh. "What are you laughing at?" she demanded, pouting, a speck of ash on her nose. "You think you could do better?" All right, Your Majesty. You rest. Let your humble servant take over," I said, grinning as I took the spatula from her. In a few minutes, I'd whipped up a couple of simple dishes. She sat at the tiny table, watching me, a warmth in her eyes I'd never seen before. We'd huddle together in the small room, watching movies on my old laptop. She'd steal the last piece of chicken from my plate, and I'd laugh myself sick when she screamed during a horror movie, only to pull her into a hug a second later. I was discovering that underneath all the glamour, Clara was just a girl, a little spoiled, a little clumsy, but funny and real and wonderful. She started trying to make things up to me. She'd clean my disastrous apartment while I was out on deliveries. She'd time it so a simple, hot meal was waiting for me on the hot plate when I got home. She even started secretly tucking throat lozenges into the pocket of my uniform jacket. One night, I came home soaked from a downpour. She was waiting at the door with a steaming mug of ginger tea. "Drink this quick before you catch a cold," she said, nagging me as she dried my hair with a towel. "I told you to come home early when it started raining. Is the money more important than your life?" I looked at her, my heart filled with a warmth that spread through my whole body. This feeling of being cared for, of being worried about, was something I'd never really known. But a knot of unease remained in my stomach. I could feel her trying to please me, carefully making up for the past. And the better she was to me, the more my own stupid insecurities bubbled to the surface. I was still Leo, the delivery guy. She was Clara, who had seen the world. Could we ever really bridge that gap? That feeling peaked when I found her secretly looking for jobs. I glanced at her laptop screen and saw she was on a job hunting site, applying for positions like luxury retail associate and PR assistant, jobs that required a polished image and a sophisticated network. My stomach dropped. Was she already trying to get back to her old life? Was my little apartment, our quiet, humble life, not enough to hold her? That night, I tested her. "You know, you don't have to get a job. I can support both of us with my delivery work." The words sounded pathetic as soon as they left my mouth. Clara, who had been massaging my sore shoulders, stopped. She was quiet for a moment, then said softly, "Leo, I'm not looking for a job to go back to my old life." She came around to face me, kneeling on the floor and looking up, her expression deadly serious. "I want to share the burden with you. You work so hard every day, out in all kinds of weather. I don't want to just sit here and wait for you to support me. I want to make money so we can save up together. We could get a bigger place, maybe even a small car, one that doesn't need charging. Wouldn't that be nice?" She spoke as if she was painting a picture of a future that was real, a future that belonged to both of us. I used to always look for the easy way out for someone else to rely on, but now I get it. The only thing that feels real is what you earn with your own two hands. Just like you. She took my hand and pressed it to her cheek. "You made me realize that a simple, honest life can be a good one." I looked into her clear eyes, and the knot in my gut finally loosened. All my unspoken fears, my anxieties about not being good enough, they all seemed so ridiculous in the face of her sincerity. I leaned down, and for the first time, I kissed her. With Clara there, my tiny apartment finally started to feel like a home. I had more drive than ever on my delivery runs. Before, I was chasing an impossible dream. Now, I was building a future I could almost touch. Clara found a job as a sales associate at a department store. It was tiring work, but she came home every evening with a light in her eyes. We were like two little ants, diligently building our nest, one crumb at a time. Our life was modest, but it was filled with laughter and hope. I thought things would stay this good forever. But life has a way of knocking you down just when you start to feel comfortable. It was my birthday. I'd forgotten all about it myself, but Clara had reminded me the night before, making me promise not to work too late. She had a surprise planned. I was giddy all day, buzzing with anticipation. But of course, that's when the sky opened up. A torrential downpour started in the late afternoon. The delivery apps exploded with orders, and the company announced a surge bonus. I looked at the tempting numbers flashing on my screen and hesitated. Just one more hour, I told myself. Just one. I can make an extra $100. That was enough for a few nice meals for me and Clara. I sent her a text. Babe, it's crazy out here. I'm going to be a little late. Don't wait for me. Go ahead and eat. She replied instantly. No way. It's your birthday. You have to come home early. I already bought all the groceries. A flicker of irritation went through me. She didn't get it. This kind of weather was a gold mine for guys like me. I grit my teeth and texted back. Okay, I'll be as fast as I can. Then I put my phone on silent and plunged back into the rain. By the time I got home, soaked to the bone and utterly drained, it was nearly 10 o'clock. The apartment was dark. Clara, I called out. The light flicked on. Clara was sitting at our little table, wearing the new dress I bought her. On the table were several dishes, all cold, and a small birthday cake with 2 candles, a 2 and a 7 stuck in the frosting. She didn't jump up to greet me like she usually did. She just sat there, staring at me, her eyes red. You're home, she said. Her voice was ice. I'm sorry. The orders were just insane today. I started to explain, knowing I was in the wrong. Orders, is that all you think about? She suddenly stood up, her voice rising. It's your birthday. I've been getting everything ready since this afternoon, waiting to make you a special dinner. And you? You chose a few extra bucks over your own birthday. It's not just about the money. My own temper flared, fueled by a day of exhaustion and frustration. Who do you think I'm doing this for? I'm out there breaking my back in the pouring rain so I can give you a better life. You think I enjoy it? I never asked you for a better life. Her eyes were brimming with tears. I told you I don't care about that stuff. All I want is for you to be safe, to be with me. Do you have any idea how worried I was with you out there in a storm like this? Worry? Does worry pay the bills? The words flew out of my mouth before I could stop them. What kind of life were you used to before? You think I don't want you to have nice things? I can't afford them. All I can do is work myself to death trying. Leo, she yelled, stunned. The tears finally spilled over and ran down her cheeks. So that's what you think? You think I'm still hung up on that life? You think being with you is some kind of downgrade for me? Isn't it? The anger had completely taken over, and I said the one thing I knew would destroy her. If you really didn't care, why were you with that guy in the Porsche in the first place? I regretted it the second it was out of my mouth. The room went dead silent, the only sound are choked sobs. She stared at me, her eyes filled with a profound disappointment and hurt that felt worse than if she'd slapped me. Wow, Leo. Just, wow, she said, her voice trembling as she wiped at her tears. So that's what you've thought of me this whole time. In your head, I'm still just some shallow, money-grubbing woman. Is that it? She didn't give me a chance to answer. She grabbed her coat and ran out the door. Clara. I chased after her, but the hallway was already empty. I stumbled back into the apartment and stared at the table of cold food and the lonely birthday cake. There, next to my plate, was a bowl of ramen noodles, swollen and congealed. My heart felt like it had been scooped out. How could I have said that? I didn't mean it. I was just tired, just so desperate to prove myself, so terrified she would leave. My own damn insecurity, my sensitivity, it had turned into a monster and destroyed everything. I grabbed my keys and helmet and ran back out into the storm. I had no idea where she would go. In a city this big, where could a girl go alone at night? I rode my scooter wildly through the rain, calling her phone over and over, each time getting the same result. The number you have dialed has been turned off. Rain and tears blurred my vision as I sped through the empty streets, screaming her name like a madman. Claire was gone. She hadn't gone back to the Sterling. She hadn't shown up for her job at the store. I checked every place we'd ever been, asked the few people we both knew. No one had seen her. It was like she had vanished from the face of the earth. I quit my delivery job. I couldn't stand to wear that blue uniform anymore. It was the uniform I was wearing when I torched our life. I found a new job working the night shift at a logistics warehouse, sorting packages, hoping to numb my mind with punishing physical labor. I abandoned my e-bike, leaving it parked downstairs to collect dust, a monument to a love that was already a relic. My life turned gray and silent. I stopped joking around, stopped being me. I was just a shell. After work, I'd lock myself in that tiny apartment and scroll through our old text messages from the very first, "Hey, your food's here," to the very last, "I'll be as fast as I can." The sweet, everyday chatter was now a gallery of tiny knives, each one twisting in my heart. I started posting strange, vague things on my Instagram story. The wind is so strong tonight. Hope you're not cold. Heard the new Blockbuster is great. Wish I had someone to see it with. Night shift at the warehouse is brutal. A bowl of hot soup would be amazing right now. I knew it was stupid, pathetic. She probably wasn't even looking. And if she was, she'd just think I was a loser. But I couldn't stop. It was the only way I could talk to her, a desperate, hopeless broadcast into the void. I was waiting for a reply that I knew would probably never come. Friends told me to let her go. that we were from different worlds and it was for the best. I'd say, yeah, I'm over it, but only I knew the truth. Clara was a nail driven straight into my heart. I couldn't pull out, and every time I brushed against it, the pain was sharp and fresh. 3 months passed. Fall arrived, and the air turned crisp and cool. One morning, after a long night's shift, I was dragging myself home. As I passed the familiar department store downtown, I glanced up at the big glass windows out of habit. And then I saw her. She was wearing a sharp, professional blazer, standing behind the very same jewelry counter where I'd bought her the necklace. She was smiling, helping a customer. She was a little thinner, but she radiated a new kind of confidence. The morning sun streamed through the glass, and it looked like she was glowing. I froze on the sidewalk. Our eyes met through the glass. Her smile faltered. A flash of panic crossed her face, but it was quickly replaced by a calm composure. She excused herself from the customer and walked toward the window. We stood there, separated by a thick wall of glass, just looking at each other. I wanted to say something. "I'm sorry, I miss you, are you okay?" But the words were trapped in my chest, a painful, swelling lump. She pulled out her phone and started typing. A moment later, my own phone buzzed. It was a message notification from her. Her profile picture, which I thought I'd never see light up again. "I saw your Instagram stories." The tears I've been holding back for 3 months finally broke free. She had been watching all my stupid, lonely messages into the ether. She'd seen them all. Another message came through. "I got a new job. I'm working here now. Not to go back to my old life, but to prove I can stand on my own 2 feet. Leo, I was never ashamed of you for being poor. I was just scared of you killing yourself for a few extra dollars. I didn't really want to leave that night. I was just so hurt. I went back to my hometown for a while to sort out some family stuff and clear my head. I stared at the screen, my vision blurred. All my misunderstandings, my insecurities, my regrets, they were all shattered by her simple, honest words. She looked up at me through the glass and mouthed 2 words. I knew what they were. Come home. It was all I'd wanted to hear for so long. I couldn't wait another second. I turned and ran, not walked, all the way back to my apartment. I cleaned the entire place from top to bottom, throwing out all the empty ramen cups and beer cans, arranging the things she'd left behind neatly. Then I took a shower, put on clean clothes, and sat down at our little table to wait. I didn't know how long it would be, but I knew she was coming back. As dusk settled, I heard a key in the lock. The door opened. It was Clara. She was holding a thermos. She took in the clean room, then looked at me. She froze for a second, and then she smiled. It was the same bright, warm smile from the day we first met. "I'm off work," she said, placing the thermos on the table. She opened the lid. Inside was steaming hot chicken noodle soup. "I brought you dinner." I stood up, walked over to her, and pulled her into the tightest hug I could manage. "I'm sorry," I choked out, burying my face in the crook of her neck. "I was wrong, Clara. I was so wrong." She hugged me back, patting my back gently, like she was comforting a lost child who had finally found his way home. "I know," she whispered in my ear. "The wind is so strong today. I was afraid you'd be cold, so I came back to bring you a jacket."